Sure.
Okay. All right. So this month is all about sea life, and I want to expand sea life more than just stuff happening in the sea, just fish. So we've this some of the topics that I've thought of are were of course different kinds of sea life. You have something as simple as all the colorful fish. Then you have slightly more complex creatures like octopus or even turtles for that matter, or seahorses or sea slugs. They're all really beautiful. And all of them have some very unique characteristics, which I feel sometimes in terrestrial animals are missing, especially the color. Many animals that we find are pretty they're just one tan color, very boring colors, except if you're a zebra or a giraffe. But pretty much like birds, sea life also has a lot of color combinations, patterns, prints that can be quite exciting to make. And I never made sea life till one of the kids' class students said, "Why don't we make fish sometime?" And that's when I thought that there is like an entire literal ocean of creatures that is untapped because we don't relate to fish as much, other than the only place that I have seen a card being made about fish was one of those breakup cards. There's plenty of fish in the sea. That's it. There just seems to be only that association. But I'm sure there's other things that we can think of. We can just pull that out. They make for very beautiful stickers, just graphics that you can put around anywhere, even if they don't have a context. The other reason is that sea life makes for a very interesting sketching topic, and I've been trying to get everyone to sketch a whole lot with pencil. All those fluid lines around sea life help much more in sketching than when we do animals, say, or even birds. So I have shared the images today. One is of a black and white image of a betta fish, I think. It could be a goldfish also. And then the next one is a betta fish. So it's similar fish, which have got very flowing lines. And then the last one is koi. So I wanted to address three things here. One is just being able to sketch this in different kinds of pencils. So some of you, if you've got that whole set of pencils from HB to 8B, this is a topic that you can use those pencils for. The second point is about this color. So how do we get these kind of very subtle, gentle color merges to create this fish? And the third one, an issue that I think I should tackle uh, as frequently as possible, is the issue of creating a background. Now, in this case, the background is black. So we will be able to make this in after we have made the painting. But in many cases, the background is often an afterthought. So I decided I'm going to address the background as and when possible so that we have multiple options of making the background. And you all are not, after a lovely picture is made, you feel, array, something is missing. And then you take one big fat brush and just do some zigzag lines. I've seen so many beautiful pictures ruined because of that last wish ke race mein background hona chahiye. So we will not ever do that. And the only way to avoid those accidents is to keep making backgrounds in pictures. So not just an isolated image, but we'll do the background as well. So what I want you to start out with will be a pencil sketch of the first fish, the black and white. Let me share screen with you. So this is going to be like a warm-up exercise in which you will be making this sketch with very fluid lines. So the lines, we're not trying to make a sketch of a fish that looks like it's a real fish, a very realistic looking sketch of this. But I want your hand to move around a lot so that you feel a certain freedom in drawing. I'm going to demonstrate so you know exactly what I mean. After that, I'm going to explain to you how to read the information in a picture in simplified forms and shapes so that we can recreate a picture like this, or even like this, and of course, definitely like this. Okay, so I'm going to be using two kinds of pencils. Uh, I have a charcoal pencil, and I have a oops, regular pencil which I have sharpened to maybe a centimeter long lead. You don't need to make it that big, but at some point, if you can sharpen the pencil like this, it helps for sketching quite a bit. Now, even the charcoal pencil, I can sharpen more, but I'm just going to use it for some dark areas because the pencil line might not be visible clearly. Right, so the first sketch, we're not going to make it too large, just on the left A5 size sheet. So whenever you have decided on the area that you need to cover with the reference image in front of you, try and see the two together. So right now I'm looking at my laptop screen in which I can see my hands and this frame, and I can also see our WhatsApp chat. So I am figuring out how large my fish is going to be and how large its tail and fins are going to be. Objectively speaking, if you just look at it, your fish is about this size. And then about, if you take the same size down, you come to about 3/4 of the tail almost, and then you just have a little bit coming down here. So when you make a sketch like that, your hand needs to be moving. It doesn't need to move fast, but it needs to move freely. So you make the first line that you see. I see the bottom of the back, and then I see the next line. And with every line you make, you start seeing the form better and better. So one way is just to make it like that, but you can also work with smaller lines. What I definitely do not want you to do, oops, is try to draw using lines like that. If you're drawing lines like that, there's two possibilities. One is you're just holding the pencil so close that you can't make a very long line. It's impossible to make a long line when you hold the pencil so close. But if you hold it far enough, it's easier to see where your line is going. And then you have the confidence to make that long, free-flowing line as well. As you are drawing, you can start filling in some details, like there's one part of the fish over here, the gills. Then there's one line coming straight down. So if you notice, my lines are not very precise. I'm not trying to make very precise lines. And I'm going to keep changing the lines as I get better and better information. It helps if you are seeing the image in the same plane as you're drawing it. If you don't move your head, then you will be able to draw better. Ritu, if you're looking up at your screen for the reference image, then hold your book upright. Ideally, don't move your eyes up and down because you will miss out on proportion. So sit back in your chair, hold your book upright. Yeah, around, and only your eyes should move in the same plane.
So I'd probably hold the image close to my book. Will that be fine?
Yes, as long as it's in the same plane. So if you can see it on your phone and you
Yeah.
keep the phone right next to you and just move your eyes from that side, that's also fine. But there are times when if you're seeing it in front, it's okay to, like, sometimes when you're making an urban sketch or something, these you obviously can't keep the subject flat. So in that case, just hold your book. Your book has to be flexible. Your hold can be flexible. You can hold it any way so that you can make the sketch, but you should always be able to see your image in the same plane.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, it's much easier this way.
Good. Shivani, you can hold the book. It will be better. Yeah.
Aditi, do you recommend those desk easels? Do they work better?
What easels? What are these?
The desk ones, the ones that you can put on your desk. An easel?
Not for the work that we are doing, but
Okay.
yeah, of course, I think it helps. See, the an easel helps when you're doing a lot of either washes or
Mm,
like what you would do in landscapes.
okay.
But when have we needed? Let me just look back and think about all the stuff that we've done where an easel might have helped. See, all these little things that we've done, like the sugar skulls or the mud cloth, वहाँ पे easel का कोई फायदा नहीं है because we have to make very precise work. So our hand has to be firmly on the paper. But
Okay. Mm.
I suppose portraiture can be done on an easel. Pictures of birds and all can be done, but in a very loose watercolorish style. Then it
Okay.
should be fine. But it doesn't hurt to have one around. It might also be good. I think I used to have one, but honestly I didn't use it much. So
Yeah, that's why I
what
asked because I said, does it? I mean, sometimes, like, I'll give you an example. If I attend any session with somebody else who keeps saying, use the ruler, it is very uncomfortable for me because we've learned from you not to use the ruler. Same
hmm,
thing goes for the eraser.
hmm,
So whatever you learn in the beginning is what
that's
stays.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even for me, every time these workshop people go for the eraser, I feel sometimes it's unnecessary. Well, I empathize with them because for many students, since we've all been there, they're intimidated to do anything without the erasers. For a workshop, I suppose it doesn't matter. But tell me something, Ritu. If they even if they have asked to use the eraser or the ruler, not using it, does it still work, or do they ask for a ruler for precise measurements or straight lines?
See, Aditi, only one or two online ones that I've attended, no in-person one.
Huh.
So they can't really see whether I'm actually using the ruler or not.
That's
So
okay. But
my first reaction is I don't want to use it.
huh. And have you done it? Have you not used the ruler, and have
Yeah,
you and
yeah,
has the result worked?
yeah, pretty
Oh,
okay.
good, good, good.
Yeah,
Then that's
because
that's
I
the
just
important.
feel when you start using the ruler, there are very definite lines, and those definite lines just take away from the actual image or the picture what you're painting. It just gives it a very artificial kind of a feel.
Isn't it? Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So I
That
don't like that.
correct. That one line sets such an artificial standard for the rest of your lines, and then nothing
Yeah.
looks so true. Good. So my hypothesis was accurate.
No, no, fortunately, I mean, and also what happens is, I mean, now this is a very stupid thing to say. I was attending that creative thing, retreat, whatever they were having on online. That Peggy Dean, the pigeon letters. Oh God! After some time, I was like, why does she talk so much?
Yeah, seriously, how much she talks. All of
Talks
those
too
She
much,
instructors,
talks
you
so
know. And I'm
much.
like,
Oh
just
my
get
God.
on
God,
with the
I'm
When
like
she
work. Why are you
starts
stupid.
wasting
that, I'm
time?
thinking, same. It's like 15 minutes class and at 45 minutes they're just talking about don't know what. And
Bakwas.
laughing and
And
talking
it's
and
like they can't keep their mouth shut, like they're compelled to say something all the time. But bak
correct.
bak karte raho, karte raho, karte raho. It's
Correct.
very distracting.
North American problem, I'll tell
And
you
I'm
what.
like, I'm not
Yeah, it
used to all
really
this.
is.
I'm used
It's
Because
a
to
North
be
the
American
quiet
European
problem.
in my class.
instructors and all don't do it so much.
Europeans are very,
Unfortunately, I'm not
very late.
attending the live ones. I
Restricted.
just record. I watch the recording and I fast forward to the main piece.
Oh my God, they're
Really,
And
so
really. I watch
irritating.
it, you won't believe. American ones you can watch at 1.25 speed and still not miss anything. And if you're watching it live, the best is to put it on mute.
Oh my God.
Don't hear them.
they
Just
really
watch them.
so
Oh,
much.
I haven't tried that. I
I
should
think
try
they've
that.
got some anxiety problems the way they are talking. No, all of them I've realized that they feel that they've got
No, I
some
Yeah.
think
huge emotional
there
problem.
is far
So
too
they
much
need to
stress on
talk
mental
and
health.
use art to heal, and that's what they
Oh
keep doing all the
God.
time. It's really annoying.
No, and I also realize the American artists, their work is very basic. Whereas the European and those artists from Philippines, their
Ah,
work is much better.
much
They
better.
talk
And they
less
don't
and their
talk
work
so
has
much.
more content.
Correct.
These people's work is like very bacha type thing.
Yeah, actually, I felt
है ना?
that. I felt
Very
that.
bacha
That
I'm not
type
a
thing.
very, very basic.
Yes,
Yeah.
agree.
But if you attend a Romanian or
हाँ.
a Russian artist's
Yeah.
work, oh God, they are like too good.
Agreed.
That's
Even though
interesting.
Dutch artists, the girls from Netherlands, they were good.
Please share on the group now the artist that you
Let's
like.
see
Oh
this
wow. That's
Oh,
limited
that's a nice one.
strokes, Aditi, just like 4 or 5 strokes. That's
how
it.
beautiful. It's very nice. Let me just
And
pin
I
it.
never thought I'd be able to
Yeah.
do it. That was the best joke.
Which
Wow.
artist was this one? I have to follow because it goes away after 24 hours, so I can't catch up. There are too many artists.
Artifacto is some art school and they promote. And this is a Russian artist. Very
Ah,
nice guy.
very
Very
nice.
nice.
Yeah.
Very simple and so pretty. Yesterday I heard about something called alcohol pens or something. That's
Yeah.
what she used for portraits.
Even
And
I
then I
know
just
that
use watercolor.
I've decided I'm not going to buy anything more and learn anything more. I have to just hone this, whatever I know.
Correct.
Every
And you will
day you
use
find
other things.
something new.
I did the face yesterday from that same artist.
Oh, 1 second. Let's see.
Where's it? Ah, there.
Even this session you did last time,
Very
Aditi,
nice.
of fishes,
Ah,
it really came out very good. I was very happy with it. But initially I thought, theek nahi hoega. Because
Nahin,
you're
I love
always
the fishes.
so diffident.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now the pencil sketch that we've made, we are going to darken the few areas that you see with a darker pencil, and we can use watercolor along with that also. So always remember that when we are making art, your painting, if it looks exactly like a photograph, uh, it's not saying too much about you or your style. So photorealistic pictures are fine for the photorealism part of it. But in our, again, it's a cultural thing. We feel that when you're drawing or painting something, it should look exactly like what has been shown to you. And that is an unnecessary standard. So it's almost as if the people around you are going to be able to say that, look at my daughter or my wife or my sister, she makes this painting. She's such a good artist. She can draw exactly what she sees. So there is a flaw in just that expectation, because the whole point of art is to do something different, to change it. And in changing that, you can bring in something of your own. That is the whole idea. So when we are practicing all these artworks, many a time we make things look exactly the way they are, or we try to make them look exactly the way they are, except for the fact that sometimes our colors blend weirdly. Some color goes into the other. Our shapes look a little wonky. In that itself, the personality is emerging. So every time someone says that my picture is not looking like that frog that we've drawn or the building that we've made, is not a problem at all. This is just an expectation that we're trying to thwart away. So now in the case of the fish today, again, we are going to try painting this with a whole lot of brush strokes only in gray and black. So everything does not have to be colorful, and whatever you have made can also be expressed with the energy of watercolor, some colors merging into each other, and enjoying that whole dynamic of watercolor itself. Now, the painting is going to be made partly in pencil. If you have a dark pencil or a charcoal pencil, partly in that. If you've got something like water soluble pencils, you can use that and then make some texture in that. So it's going to be like a multimedia thing. And the watercolor also is not going to be precise strokes. They're going to be washes, then use some of the washes and drag your brush here and there and make it more dramatic. So I want you to really be loose and avoid making very precise marks with the tip of your brush. It's all going to be about creating flows with your brush. Most importantly, try to not repeat a stroke. So if you've made one stroke, just let it be, at least till it dries, and don't keep going over and over and over it again. All right, I think that's uh, this is like a hangover we have from pencil sketching or using color pastels or color pencils, where we keep going upper niche, back and forth, back and forth. In watercolor, there's no use for that. So let's try doing that. So if you want to get your water and watercolors, we can begin.
Aditi, I have charcoals, light, medium, and dark. Which one to use?
You can start with medium always, because medium will be medium soft. Dark might be too loose. It might just smudge too much. Okay, so now if you've got proper charcoal, then maybe you should use it after the painting. I'm using this charcoal pencil as a dark pencil can be used. So I'm just refining the lines, but making them quite casually. A few strokes here and there for texture. So that when you're painting, you have some guidelines. Even here, look at making the lines like this, where they start almost as if there's no starting point, like a touchdown line, and make these nice flows. The line quality is very important, because that will help in directing the eye in whichever direction you want it to flow. Now, when you're making the eye, try to zoom in and see how that eye looks. It's not a circle, it is an oval, flattened oval, because the head is slightly tilted towards the other side. When you're making the scalloped scales, make them, you don't have to make all of them, but try to get the shape as accurately as you can. You can make just a few of them. In the places where there's a darker color. Okay, ready to paint? Okay, my fish has become too flat. I think I can expand its head a little more. Okay. Now we can make a gray, blue-gray shade like this. So this is the second thing that we can do with illustration. Though our picture is black and white, our reference image is black and white, we don't need to make it a black and white picture alone. It can be made in different shades of gray. Like for example, over here, you have a slightly bluish gray. Over here, you have a slightly blackish gray. So start with a lighter color and start blocking areas. So put the color in areas where you have a light color, but in some places leave it blank because you have to put in a highlight. Most of our strokes are going to be just like this. They're just going to be a stroke. They're not going to be carefully painted lines. So you should be able to finish this painting with just a few strokes like these.
Aditi, what brush are you using? 6?
I'm using, I think this is 10.
And the mixes of ultramarine blue.
Cobalt blue actually. But you can use ultramarine as well.
And with what other shade have you put?
Just black.
Okay.
Now I'm also doing this wet on wet thing so that I get a very fun color blend.
Yours is more black, is it?
Is it? I don't know. No, now the colors changed because I've used black. But here it was mostly bluish black.
Okay.
And the darker areas, I'm applying black on the wet itself. So if you use the brush cleverly like that, just along the edges to give it a texture, this will easily imitate the scales without having to draw the scales. And then in places like these, you can add a black, again, wet on wet. And in places where you have a very light color, you can actually just extend these lines from here. So I want you to see that with the briefest of strokes, you can create quite a lot of drama. Now, when making the eye, always remember that to make the fish look like it's alive, not dead, we need to have some highlight. But in a photograph, often that highlight is missing. So, in such cases, I often make an artificial highlight like this, so that the face of the fish can look alive. Many of the lines that I've made will be obscured with the black, and maybe just a small hint of that might be visible through the paint. But what I'm relying on mostly for the beauty of the painting is in the watercolor mixing with the base color and creating these very dramatic looking lines. Avoid making too many dark lines also. Just make one or two in a few places. And now over here, there are those lines of the fin, which can be quite pretty to make. But how I would encourage you to make it is with a very light line. So just a hint of the color that we have. So you actually should dab your brush. So you have very little paint. And with this residual paint, when you make this, you definitely will get some lines. And ideally, to get the correct direction of the line, you should turn the reference image also upside down. Again, over here, don't make all of them. Okay, are you getting it?
Mine has become too wet.
Okay,
Mm.
then don't pick it up if it's too wet, because all the color will come down. Let it dry. Let it dry. It's looking good. Once it's dry, you should be able to see if you've got adequate contrast, dark and light shadows. And if not, then as a second round, you can make those dark shadows again. So like over here, I can start putting more black. Now it's all too wet, so even I can't add anything more. It just disperses. So I'm going to wait till this dries and then come back to it. Now if you're done, then we can move to the drawing of the next fish. So let me know when you're done. Then I'll show you the next fish and those color blends. If some of your layers are wet and you need to go back into it a second time, we'll do it afterwards. Ah, very nice. Nice, Ritika. It's looking good. So tell me something, Ritika. Were you able to create that flow in brief strokes, or did you keep going over it over them again? Like, did you
So
make?
basically, I use the watercolor pencil. So once I use the water on it, so it merged. But yes, I'm still struggling with that flow. That it should come like it's a natural line, but it feels like I have created something to show that it's there.
Yeah. So I don't know when that will change. That's that stays the longest. I don't know what that hangover is. The so one quality of that line is that the color would be more intense at the start of the line, and then it reduces in intensity. And then as you lift the brush away, then you again get a little blob of color. That means you've made one large line with a little bit of brush manipulation. But maybe it's that one place where that intensity reduces, you feel the need to create a darkness that you tend to go back. And it's almost as if you can't hold your pen back. You make that line, and before you finish your thought, your hand goes over it again. So we'll work on it little by little.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, because I'm not able to loosen it up. I mean, that it can flow after a point. I feel like, no, I have to make it. I mean, I don't let it flow. I do it on my own. Then no, I will do it. Yeah.
It'll change. Okay. Yes, Shivani, let's see yours. Okay, very nice. So Shivani, I think in your case, the contrast is very high. We need to have some mid-tones.
My face doesn't look nice at all. So I don't know what you
But
said.
that face, the face of the fish is completely black. So you don't have
That's why I don't know why it looks so funny. I thought the tail and all was a bit okay, but the face looks a little
I think
bit.
if you add a few mid-tones, then it
Hmm.
might equalize a little bit, because right now it's looking half baked. Like part of your lasagna is undercooked, but the cheese is completely burnt. ऐसे लग रहा है.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to how to draw these specific Sorry.
Yeah.
Where am I?
That's so nice. I like it.
Aditi, I think mine needs some more.
Yeah. Oh, nice. But see, okay, let me evaluate. Shape, proportion, all that is good. Yeah, so Ritu, both one by one, let me see. Alka, you need more defined lines.
Yeah.
Ritu, I think yours is looking nice. In some places, the flow between the darker shades and the mid-tones needs to be a little less pronounced.
Okay.
But on the right track, it's looking very nice. Sorry, without, oh God, I've got such a migraine. Objectively speaking, without looking at any other image, they're looking very pretty. So there is, 1 minute. So what I'm looking for is that in any painting, other than how it looks in one shot, what keeps your eyes on the painting are a whole dynamic in the composition. The colors, there will be a place where the color is more attractive. Not necessarily the brightest or the most attractive color, it attracts attention. It could be a deep color, it could also be absence of color. And then there's the flow of the lines, which draws the eye across the page. So often you will have paintings where lines are designed in such a way that they bring your eye to a focal point. Sometimes your first the point of attraction is the focal point from where the eye keeps going out and circularly bringing your eye back, or your sight back to that focal point. So these lines that we are making, the reason why I'm asking you to not make too many lines in the texture is to not create too many distractions for the eye. When there is too much happening, of course, it might still look nice, but it can sometimes look a little overwhelming. You can observe it and you can appreciate it for a little while, and then you quickly need to look away. But when you make a few lines here or there, so the advantage as a beginner is that you don't have to look at too many things accurately. You just make a few, your work is done. And why the work is done is because those are indications to the brain. It's like a suggestion कि अच्छा पापा सुन लो, this is a fin, और इस प्रकार के whatever colors you find and texture you find, they're all fins. समझ गया ना आप? And the brain says, yes, I get it, and I'll fill in that blank. And that's great because that gives the brain something to do. Otherwise, it is going to overwork and it's going to start thinking about stuff that it should be seeing that it's not seeing. So sometimes it works to our advantage to not over explain too many things in our pictures. When I'm looking at everyone's pictures, I'm looking at the contrast between the colors and also the lines. So you have a nice bulbous shape from where there is a flow. Is the flow in the right direction? Do you have adequate contrast of colors and lines in that flow? That is what I'm looking at. Whether it is adequate or not, maybe you won't be able to say right now. That is why probably I'm explaining what I'm looking at. So you start understanding what to look out for. Then when you see pictures of the same nature by other people that you find attractive, don't think of whether they are famous pictures or other people find them attractive. If you find them attractive, these are the points of comparison that you can make. Do they have adequate contrast? Is the color combination interesting? Is that whole wet on wet dynamic what I find attractive? Those are the points then you can evaluate with, and then you can build that into your practice. So this is another thing I was telling you when I talk to the kids and I say, okay, I like what you're doing, you're on the right track. I want you to ask me, what do you mean by it? Because it's important for you also to know what it means to be on the right track. Okay, now for the colorful fish.
Aditi,
Yes.
can you see?
1 second. Yes. Madhurya, could you hold it slightly higher? Thoda aur upar. I can't see the bottom of the. Yeah, this is looking nice. You've got that nice highlight in the body of the fish. I think again the dark tones are slightly more, but not a problem at all. I think they're looking nice. Okay, now as usual, whenever you have a picture like this or like this, and maybe easily explained in a picture like this, always go with some of the basic shapes that we know of. That's circle, square, or just a line. So in any object or a composition of objects, you will see some shape or the other, and we use that as a starting point. All right. Wherever you see a curve, like you have a curve over here, and you have a curve on the body, that can give you a cue to start with. It can be a circle like this. It can be maybe a circle like this, whichever one you want to start with. So let's start with the bigger circle. The moment you have some shape, some basic shape, it becomes easier to draw everything else because it gives you some reference points. With the circle, we can create a line that is running vertically and horizontally. This gives us some spots to place, then divide this into 1/3. So it's creating a grid. Now, making a grid for illustration is a very old technique to create realistic paintings, in which you would probably make a grid that is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter or 1 inch by 1 inch, depending upon how much detail you want to go into. But these kinds of grids I found are very interesting because they can be made according to the subject. You don't always have to rely on the same grid, and sometimes you can do without a grid in part of the picture also. So I'm going to make a screenshot of this and share it on the grid. So here are the cues. At exactly half vertical, sorry, not exactly half vertical. Once you have the vertical half and horizontal half, and you divide the right horizontal into 3 parts, it's exactly 1/3 this body fin starts on the horizontal half, and it goes up to maybe a little short of half or a little higher than 1/3. These are very loose measurements, but at least there's some measurement. So this will help you to at least make the first few curves and create the shapes that we need. You can also go beyond this and make more parts of these, so that you get your own reference points. Everything in illustration is about just shape, size, placement, proportion. And in terms of proportion, what is the distance? What is the angle? How far do you need to take a line? In what direction? That's all you need to know. Okay. I'm going to clear this. For the next one. Now here again, we can start with some kind of shape. Usually a circle or a square is a good shape to start with because then you don't have to ask, okay, how tall, how long. A circle and square are equal. Then you will have vertical, horizontal lines to break this up into an easy grid, vertical, horizontal. This is complete objectivity. How far is the fin upper? So maybe it's about just half the distance or slightly more than half. And then you make a teardrop shape. This is the way you look at everything in the world in terms of lines and basic shapes. And I'm telling you, you can draw everything because once you break it down into something like this, it's just a matter of measuring it and drawing it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share those pictures with you, the screenshots that I've taken. And let's try drawing those fish. Again, for this, don't make it too big. Just make it tiny. It becomes easier for us to paint them quickly. Now that you've made the first fish, even for the second one, illustrate it with a very sketchy line first. So now that we know how big our fish is going to be, the circle can be somewhere here because we need a large fin on top, small fin beyond the circle at the bottom, and then a little bit of a fin on the right. So this is where our circle can come. Make a central line, vertical, horizontal. Measure that the vertical above is slightly less than the diameter of the circle. Divide the circle on the right in 3 parts, on the left in 2 parts. And you just need these points, so you don't need to draw the whole line also. Right from this point, I have the fin going up here, out, then coming to the midpoint, inside. And now here also, use the clock face reference to figure out where the line is going. So in this line of the fin is going in a compound curve form towards 5, 6, 7 o'clock, and then outwards towards 8 o'clock. It really helps. Now the face of the fish sticks out of the circle a little bit. Using this technique, I remember last, maybe 3 months ago, I made the map of India in the kids' class. I'll try and show it to you. It was wild. The youngest kid is 7 in that class, and he is very impatient. We started off with making the map in a diamond shape. He managed to fit Kashmir and the Northeast and Gujarat and everything into the diamond. So it was a little odd. I'll show you that picture also.
Aditi, I feel in watercolor, the highlights are the main thing. I mean, apart from the other parts.
Yeah.
So I think, at least for myself, I can say I goof up majorly on that.
Yeah, actually that is a big problem for everyone with watercolor because the highlights are not, we don't really consider the highlights till the very end. So the colors are seen first. The way to interpret a watercolor painting and or a subject to paint is very different from other mediums. So that's why I guess to start it with a lighter color is a better idea. All shades must be lighter. And it's very easy in watercolor. First, you just do these washes. And when you're making the washes, the trick is whether you have seen a particular highlight or not clearly, just don't paint the wash everywhere in the beginning. Just keep it only in a few places. I'll try and show it to you. So even if you draw highlights in the wrong place, as long as there are highlights, you will get depth. It's a very weird logic.
Yeah, because this fish that you made just before this,
Hmm.
the first wash that you did
Hmm.
was actually the deciding one. Now I goofed on that,
Hmm.
and that is why after that you do any amount, it will never come back to its.
Correct. Yeah. No, you're right. That does tend to happen.
And I think the constant reminder that, paint something else or paint less.
Yes.
That's the main thing actually. We have, at least I can see the change in my strokes. Earlier I used to try and cover up everything.
Ah. Oh, okay.
So now at least that change has happened.
You should write these things down and send them to me, because that way I know what works.
Yeah, this actually works. I mean, because I had the same problem as Ritu is sharing, because I used to watch again and again, the recording, and I could assess that that's the problem. I mean, I don't let the light wash remain, but that's what it brings in the contrast. That's how we can see in the picture. So I have to, psychologically stop my brain and tell it, you have to keep the light part. Don't paint everything. You have to keep the light part. So I always repeat your lines.
That is so strange, and I've seen that constantly. People just feel ki you should not leave anything blank, just go over it.
It's
Mm.
actually conditioning, Aditi. Earlier,
Yeah.
pehle ka conditioning that one has to get rid of.
Mm. How strange is that? Hmm. Okay, shall we paint this? Now, here again, oh wait, before we paint, here we can use the eraser. Huh? After all that chat about eraser, please remove any straight lines you see, because we've used grid lines which have been slightly straighter, and our fish does not have any straight lines in it. Remove those, because once you paint, then you won't be able to remove anything. Now we must remember that with watercolor, blending of colors should be very natural. Don't try to artificially blend. There are so many colors happening in this fish that you should be able to just drop in a color here or there and then let the rest of the water do its trick. So I want you to just observe this. I'm breaking up the painting of this fish into three parts, at least three parts. One is the main dorsal fin over here, the lateral fin over here, and the body. This is one section. Then I'm going to paint the other lateral fin, the ventral fin on this side, and then the last one. So we will have 1, 2, and 3. These are the three parts I'm going to paint. And I'm going to paint them one after the other. Maybe not when it's completely dry, but not completely wet either. So often one good idea is to paint from top to bottom. In the top over here, I see bluish, greenish shades happening. Here there's red and orange, mostly orange, yellow, and red over here. And then some of that is coming into this part where you have even lemon yellow shades and blues and all thrown in. So how to distill this picture? Don't look at the specifics. Remove these lines, the dark lines. Remove the dark shadow lines over here. Those can be made later. In the absence of those lines, what do you see? What color do you see? That is the color we have to make. Now here there isn't any great highlight, but I'm going to try and leave some blank space here or a very pressed brush stroke over here so there isn't too much color. and also very little color along the eyes and very little color along the mouth. So these are the highlights. Identify the highlights and at the very least have a very light color over there. All right. So starting from the top, just creating a wash. I'm going to make this with cerulean blue, a little bit of lemon yellow, and then bring it down into orange, gamboge, red, and then take this out into cerulean blue and lemon yellow again. All right. The washes are very light so that if I feel I'm goofed up, I can go back into it again. Pressing it down, keeping it fairly liquid. At this point, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon yellow. So automatically I get that green fin color. And now I'm thinking I could do the same thing over here also, right now, instead of confusing that. So I want you to observe that I'm not painting with the tip too much. I am pressing the brush down. This is just laying the color down. The amount of liquid, it's substantial. So it allows the color to flow well enough. And also stay wet enough so that I can do this next. Here it's very firm, that distinction. So I'm not going to go there right now.
This is orange, Aditi.
Gamboge, orange, and now scarlet. Now this is orange. Pressing it down. And when these things happen like that, the color mixing on its own, let it do it. Don't go and change that. It's doing a wonderful job there. Here I need a darker color, so I'm going to put in a little bit of scarlet again. Using just gamboge, I'm pulling this color up. And let these things happen. So as you might notice, I didn't keep doing this back and forth, back and forth. This is exactly what I want you to avoid making. And when in doubt, use the lighter shade. So over here, I don't know whether I should go in with scarlet or something else. So I've used gamboge. So that, again, at the very least, I have the opportunity to make a gamboge highlight, if not keeping it white. Now here there's a lot of water. So I had expected it to flow into the fin and it hasn't. So I can create a second wash with lemon and gamboge and pull it down literally. But this time it will be more firm. This will be my layer 1. Oh, I could also do one over here. So we can work with a fully loaded brush with lots of paint and water, but we can also work with a brush that has been wiped, and you can still pull the color into the new section. Use the brush only as a tool when you have excess paint. You don't have to keep loading the brush every time. Like, let me pick up some color from here and I can fill it in this section because I don't want this to dry into a cloud. I can also drag it into other sections and also create texture at a later point. Okay, so always think about what medium, what is the nature of the medium in your brush, and how you can work with whatever is in your brush in that current scenario. All right, you want to give it a go? So remember, the strokes are brief, but they are not fast. If you are working fast, then you might have the tendency to do this fat thing. Okay, so keep the strokes light enough, and you can work reasonably at a reasonable pace. Okay, I'm just stepping away for a minute. How is it going? You should be done by now. If you're not done, then you're probably overdoing something. Let's see. Okay. 1 second. I'm just changing the view. Okay. Madhuja's is looking good. Ritu's is looking good. Very nice. Don't do any more. Leave it like that. Yeah. Okay, looking nice. Ritu, after the orange part has dried a little bit, I think you can just pull in your lemon yellow shade closer to this. Don't leave any blank spaces there.
Which one, Aditi?
This part, just the top part here.
Here.
Yeah, there seems to be a blank space. That'll look like
Yeah. So
light.
should I pull the lemon yellow down?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Ritika's is looking good. Very nice. Very good. So you all have all got this highlight on top. Very nice. Okay. Zai, I think you can use a little more color. Akhtar, I think there's too much water in it. So pigment can be slightly more intense.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm also thinking maybe it's just the light. But are you putting too much pressure on your brush? Are you dragging the brush a bit more? Can there
I'm-
Okay.
Apply less pressure and see.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, as now what I've been saying is you need to manipulate the brush. Now here's two things. I don't know how. Let me try and explain this. So I am pressing also, but my pressing is in order to splay the tip. Okay. So it will require a certain amount of force, but it's different from pressing down and painting. So I don't know how the difference is there, but it's there. Now, if we drag the brush when we are pressing it too much, then the colors become a little dull. So that's why we use a soft brush as opposed to using one of those hard brushes that we use for acrylic and for oil painting, so that you can gently splay the bristles without having to add pressure, and that then does not change the brilliance of your watercolor. So just see how much pressure you need to just splay out the brush strokes. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now moving on to the next colors. Since the background is black, it's all really very dark, but we won't be too concerned with the dark portions. The fin on the opposite side will also be a combination, a little bit of cobalt blue here, closer to the body, it will be more concentrated. Not the eye so much. And then the same color you have, cerulean blue, coming all the way around the face. And then that watery lemon yellow along the edge. Now in this case, if you want a very light edge, move your brush along the edge like that, perpendicular to the edge, not parallel. So the tip will absorb some of the paint over here and spread it towards the outside, but not so much that it will create a distinct line. And we do something similar for the bottom here. I have no idea what this is. It seems to be one more fin, but I'm just painting what I see. So there's a little bit of scarlet and orange there. Oh, this is crimson. Gamboge on this side. Scarlet below. Gamboge again over here. Moving to lemon yellow and cerulean. And then finally, the cobalt. And then on the other side, I'm applying cobalt blue here, and I'm going to spread it outward in stripes because there are some highlights over there that I want to retain.
So that's all cobalt blue.
Yeah. Press the brush down in some places. And just look at the shape of the lighter parts. Now lower over here, it's quite deep in color. So you can have a much darker shade even on the first layer, once you know what you're doing. And then in that also you can leave a few lines unpainted. See, so even without the edge, this looks so dramatic. Even just the colors that have been spread out make it look so dramatic. Now, if you manage to make these shapes, everything else can be made in similar shapes like these. Like the deep color over here is nothing but scarlet orange mix, which comes out like this. And then you can convert this into fins. Over here as well, a small thin line that becomes a nice fat shape here to give us some contrast. And here there's a shadow like that. Now for the eyes, I'll use a mix of lemon and gamboge to create that highlight. I think first we should reduce the gray, the pencil. So all the strokes that we make should be made like a brush manipulated stroke. I've turned the book around so that I can make this shadow here. Slightly not upright, but it's okay. And anytime you want to get rid of a sharp line like that, remember to use a damp brush and just run it along the edge very gently. For the dark patch near the eye, I'm just dropping in a little bit of burnt umber into the wet section. See? Over here. This is again very light. I've just touched the burnt umber cake, but not taken too much in. And after all of this is done, then you can paint black. Remember, whenever you're doing black, just check that everything around has dried properly. Otherwise, you will be in a very painful world of your own doing. All right, so it's 11 right now. And looks like this fish is going to take a little longer. So I don't want to rush anyone. Let's wait. Let's make this again next week. Oh, nice. How lovely, Shivani. It's looking beautiful. You made a backdrop before or after?
After, when you started doing that blue fin, I'd already done it before. So I heard you say backdrops, I started adding it. Then I realized, oh, you actually were doing the fin.
Show
So
us, Shivani. Just show it again.
that's why I got the backdrop messed it up, I think.
It's not, no. So it's not messed up. It's looking nice. But here, because the backdrop is black, we were to do it at a later stage. But it's nice. It's looking cute. It's going well with the strokes of the fish. So it's not looking bad at all. No, in any case, a backdrop that is made even as an afterthought, if it's done properly, does not look bad. But as most of, at least my students have found, there's that need to make the backdrop comes in later. That is a mistake that you should not do. That goes along with a lot of things that you think of adding later. Like when there is text, you feel like adding a little curly line here or there, and then that just messes up everything else. You've written something very beautifully, and then suddenly there's a curly, twirly underline that comes underneath it. I have done this, so I know where that comes from. You feel that what you've done is not enough, and adding more can make it better. And very often that is a mistake. So I want to break that habit. Don't add anything more. But right now, what you've done with the rest of the strokes is not looking bad at all. It's looking cute. It works with the with whatever is happening in there.
But I can change to black afterwards. Like
You
once
can,
it's
you
all
can.
dry, I can just redo the
Yeah,
black.
yeah, you can change it to black afterwards. So we'll continue this next week. How lovely. Very nice, Alka. It's looking great.
Very
Aditi,
pretty.
can you share the picture on the WhatsApp?
I will. And I want everyone to click a picture of your fish at this stage also and share it on the group so I can have a look at other technical bits, pressure and color spread and all. Nice. Looking good. Looking good. Yeah. So Ritu, the bottom fin, are you still working on that? Because it still
Yeah,
needs
yeah.
to
This
merge.
this one, no? This
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't finished. I wasn't as fast as you. So I
Okay.
just thought I'll do it in the end.
So the other fish that I've sent, and I'll send some more also. Try to paint up to this level. Try to see in the next week if you get time. Even if you find pictures of birds or maybe some other fish, try to break it down into stages. What you will do as stage one, which will just be the base colors. So remove all the dark lines, the dark shapes, the lines on the fin or whatever, and then just see it as a base color and highlight and lay down just that much and work with different colors. So translate black into dark blues or dark browns or even reds, and then see how that color merge works. And practice this painting with brief strokes. So give yourself maybe 10 minutes, no more, to draw and paint a fish up to that first level of base colors. Okay? Time is the factor. If you give yourself too much time, you will keep going back and forth. If you say, okay, 10 minutes, drawing, painting, finish, then you'll do it. Okay? All right. Okay, I'll catch you next week then. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
Aditi.